Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, we are in the Subaru, and we're going to talk about today when P0420 is actually your catalytic converter. I've been fighting this car. I rebuilt the engine. That's on my channel. If you're interested in rebuilding a EJ25, that is on my channel. I'm not going to leave a link because I don't know how to do that. It won't be anywhere except if you subscribe to my channel, go back on the channel, look for Subaru Forester EJ25 rebuild. I did new pistons, clutch, like the whole thing. The deal was I was getting P0420 and didn't think it was my cat, because when does a cat fail, right? How do you figure it out? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Man Time. All right, so when is P0420 really your cat? You're gonna need one of these. This is gonna tell you what you need to know as far as some of the data you're gonna be looking at to figure out if it's actually your cat or not. And there's two ways, actually, when that code is thrown, that it may or may not be your cat. And I'm just talking from my experience, so this is how I eventually determined that my catalytic converter was in fact bad. So when you're looking at the data here, the critical data that you're going to be looking at there is that S1, S2, O2. You can see there on the top, one is highlighted. Let me just move that highlighted. You got O2, B1, S1, and O2, B1, S2 on the very top there. And you can see those numbers. It's going to be on your right side there. You've got one that's sitting at 2 and one that's sitting below 0, like 0.8. So the O2 B1 S1, that is before there's two cats in your vehicle. There's one like in the header right before it comes out and mates up with the flange to go back to your exhaust, and then there's another one like directly after that in a pipe. And that O2 B1 S2 that's reading like below 1, that one should be reading above 1. The lower the number, the higher the non-oxygen, I guess, or the higher amount of combustible stuff is still in your exhaust, right? So I cleaned my cat, and I used to call that gutting my cat when I was a younger man. I'm a rule follower now, but I looked at the price of a new cat and it was $3,500, so I wasn't about to justify that. The other one is below that highlighted area, and that one is your load percentage. So what was happening to me was I was driving along with a rebuilt engine, right, and I was expecting performance gains. I got not performance gains, and I was getting the code P0420, but it was after like several days, right? And the O2 B1 S1 and S2 on there, so S1 before the first cat, and then S2 after. So S1 is always going to be higher, and it should be around 2.5, as you can see there. The one after should be around 1.5, something like that, and you can see it's lower, right? So that means there's more combustible stuff still in the exhaust gases. So I've cleaned my cat, and that's why the P0420 is appearing now. If I were to back out of this, I'm still getting check engine light, I'm still getting the blinking cruise, so I can't cruise because it thinks there's a problem with the exhaust gases, which there is, because I cleaned my cat out. And I used a piece of the cyclone fence post tie-in, where you tie in the cyclone fence from one point to another, and it kind of weaves through there. It's a little bit malleable. For this car, you're going to need something like that to get in there and just gently scrape away the restriction. But the difference between not being a cat and being like an electrical issue would be that O2, B1, S1, and S2, the readings coming out of there. If one of them is just at 0, that's going to be a bad sensor, right? Or it could be bad wiring. But in my case, the readings were actually fairly on point. And what was happening was that load percentage right there would be 100. If I was below 3,000 and coming up a hill, I would start losing speed. And it wouldn't matter how much throttle I would put into it, I would continue to lose speed. And that load percentage would go all the way to 100%. And I'd have to downshift. And the only way I could drive the car is to keep the RPMs like above 3,000. And then if I were to try to like wrap it out, if I was trying to rapidly accelerate or accelerate to high RPMs, I would actually get a flashing check engine, and it would throw another code and it would say cylinder 1 misfire. So those things are things you need to look for, or things that could be happening to actually have a bad cat. So after I cleaned it out, now I've still got the check engine, but it throws the P0420 code like immediately, like within 10 minutes of the vehicle running versus 2 days of the vehicle running, 50 miles a day. It would throw that P0420 because it was almost normal readings, but there was a restriction, right? So that was the difference. All right, let's go for a little test drive, and I can show you the RPMs and the load percentage the way it's supposed to be coming up to a hill. You're gonna have to be driving around to check that load percentage. So let's do that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here, we're going up a hill, and you can see on here the load percentage is below 30, right? So that's essentially what you're looking for. Now we're going downhill, no throttle, and we're at 14, 12. So the car is being pulled downhill. 20 on that reading there is about at idle. Yeah, so here's the load at idle. 16, 15. Again, we're below on our 02 B1S2 after that initial cat. That's what's throwing the code. That's why we've got check engine lights up here, right? All right, let's pull out here and get a start, and we'll do a rolling start, kind of just watching that RPM climb. I've got a big hill coming up here, and we'll just get after it here. Now that was all uphill. So that's essentially what you want there. That was zero restriction in the cat and just running hard, and it didn't affect anything. Now, one other thing I'm going to show you here, I've got a big hill coming up down at the bottom of this hill. So we're going down now, and I'm right about 3,000. And now we're coming up the hill, and the load percentage, there we go. Now we're at 50, 55 RPMs, 2,500, but I can give it gas. There's 100, but I'm accelerating. The other thing was, like, why was your cat actually clogged? So this is a Subaru. Subarus are known for leaking oil, or burning oil. And this vehicle was leaking, burning oil about 1 quart every 1,500 miles. So I would have to add a quart between every oil change, basically to keep it at the full level. So that would essentially start clogging your cat, right? And I've owned this car, so you saw the mileage there. This thing is 217.50 miles on it. I rebuilt the engine. When I got the car at 135, it was already leaking or burning oil, and I would have to add a quart every 1,500 miles. So for almost 100,000 miles, it was burning oil, and that's how the cat got clogged. So if your car's leaking oil and you've got P0420, you got a better idea of what is actually causing P0420. That, looking at the data, again, the live data, these things are like 30 to 50 bucks at Harbor Freight. They're affordable now, right? So get one and read your data, and you can figure out if P0420 is really your problem, if it's your cat. Now, the reason why I cleaned out my cat, looking at this at the Subaru dealership, the new cat pipe was $3,500. So if you aren't going to pay $3,500, you don't mind having your check engine light on, cleaning your cat is the way to go. That's going to do it for today on Man Time, guys. Get out there, have you some man time too.